You are listening to Insurance Untangled podcast, where we explore the various challenges faced by dental practices due to their reliance on insurance. In this podcast, we dive deep into the issues surrounding dental insurance dependence and offer practical solutions and strategies for reducing your reliance on insurance. Join us as we interview industry experts, share success stories, and provide valuable insights to help you take control of your practice's financial future.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. I'm Ben Tuyene, one of the co-hosts of this podcast. Created this podcast and dedicated it towards helping practices that are tangled up with insurance. We talk about things that and topics that help you take more control of your practice in an effort for you to create a bigger, a better, and brighter future for you, your patients, and of course, your team members. Today, I have my trusty co-host, Naren, with us. Naren, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing fine, Ben. Really excited to talk about the topic we have for today. What are the 5 things every successful dental practice does? So that's going to be a fun topic. The 5 things that every successful dental practice owner does.
That's awesome. You work with a lot of dentists, Naren, and I think you've been in the industry for 17 years or so?
That is correct. Yeah, more than that. Yeah, for sure.
So I think, from just an observational, speculative perspective, people like you and I that deal with hundreds and thousands of practices, we tend to see everything, even though we don't specialize with a lot of the other problems that clients see. You do tend to see a lot, right? So, in the sense of success, what are 5 things among the practices that are most successful? What are 5 things they do that contribute towards that success?
Absolutely. I think the first thing they do is they are metrics driven. And the quote that comes to my mind is what Chet Holmes said. He said, successful people don't do 1,000 things. They do 10 things really, really well 1,000 times. So what are those few metrics that are important to you? Are you paying attention to them? Are you making sure they're moving in the right direction? Are you setting goals around them? So they are metrics driven. So that's, the first thing I notice every successful practice owner does. The second thing they do is, they create a culture of accountability. In other words, let's say a practice is doing $500,000 in collections a year, and then it goes to 600, 700, 800, $1 million, 2 million, 3 million. You can't carry the load of that practice as it continues to grow as an individual, as the owner. You need to share the burden with other people. You have to create an environment where everybody feels like, the growing practice is not only good for the owner, but also good for them. And everybody feels like they know how they can contribute and they are focused on contributing that way. So it's no longer like, one person carrying the load, but rather 5 people carrying the load. So they create this culture of accountability and teamwork. The third thing I see practices do that, that excel is they really focus on patient experience. If you go and read the Google reviews, the patients rave about these practices. They are like, wow, this experience is unbelievable from the time they said hello on the phone, the very first time I called them, to every single interaction I had with them is just out of the world. Nothing like I have ever seen. And this is really important, I think, for solo practice owners, because let's face it, you cannot compete with the big chains on price or number of locations just because they have hundreds of these. But you can compete on relationship. You can compete on providing that awesome experience. That you know them by name and the patients know you, and you become like an extended family. You become their healthcare family. So patient experience is important. And the fourth one, I see that is around case acceptance, and I think this has become an increasing problem after COVID-19. I was talking to our friends at Dental Intel, and they were telling me that since COVID-19, doctors are presenting less ideal care. I mean, they have metrics for everything. They track, I think, 10,000 practices. So I don't remember the exact number, but pre-COVID-19 versus today, the average case that's being presented is far smaller, which means doctors are somehow hesitant to tell the patient what the patient needs to know about ideal care and what they need done. And of course, if you don't, it's like baseball. If you're not at the bat, you're not going to take that shot, right? So you won't even have a chance of taking that shot. So mastering case acceptance, mastering presenting cases, That's, I think, something that the best ones do, but perhaps not the majority do. So case acceptance is the fourth one.
Mhm.
And finally, you know, going back to my first point, the very successful practice is master marketing. And they see marketing as one of those 5 or 10 things they need to master. And they find the right partner, they work with the right partner. And every single month, they have steady stream of high quality patients calling their office. And they're calling, just month after month, like clockwork. And that gives them, that peace of mind, that unfair advantage. So even with people moving out of town and attrition, they can continue to grow the practice when you have
Mhm.
solid marketing.
No, that's awesome. So just a recap of that, Holmes, do 10 things 1,000 times, which kind of makes sense. I was watching a video the other day that said if you work on a skill set for 17 minutes a day, in a year, you'll rack up, and forgive me if I get this wrong, but it was somewhere in the range of 1,000 hours, where you sort of elevated yourself above the competition in terms of your skill set, right? So 10 things 1,000 times, culture of accountability and teamwork, patient experience, which is an interesting one because when you look at most of the negative reviews, Naren, and you know this better than you, and this is more your world, but what I've noticed in looking at Google reviews, negative reviews for dental practices, it has nothing to do with the clinical skill set, right? It's always the experience. It seems to be more so a negative experience from patients, right? From a financial or just a team member perspective. And then case acceptance followed by master marketing. So along these lines, Naren, of um, being a metrics-driven person or practice owner, can you give us some example on what that means in terms of being metrics-driven, but also what are some examples in the dental practice about that?
Yeah, so metrics driven is really, really important, right? Like you need to know what needles do I need to move, or what areas do I need to improve to make my practice better next year than it is to this year. And that's critical if you want to continue to make every year your best year yet in terms of production, in terms of profits, in terms of less work for you as the owner. So I'll
Mhm.
share a couple of metrics just to kind of give you a flavor. So as a marketing expert, you all know I'm the founder and CEO of Equa Marketing. One of the metrics that I strongly recommend every practice owner focuses on is, um, call conversion rate. In other words, of the new patient calls you're getting, what percent are actually booking an appointment to come see you and hopefully showing up for those appointments. The average dental practice in the US converts 1 out of 3 new patients. So that means 3 new
Wow.
patients are calling, only 1 person actually books and shows up. That's a big problem, right? That means they are really, really
Hmm.
not good at rolling the red
Yeah.
carpet, building that rapport, making that patient feel welcome and important, and getting them to, come in. They don't have the
Mhm.
skills, they don't have the capability. So if you don't even know how well you are doing in this, how can you improve? Imagine telling your child, yeah, I need you to do better at math, but you never tell him that he only got 49 out of 100 in the
Mhm.
latest math test. How can he improve? He doesn't know, right? He doesn't know where he stands. The minute you tell him you only got 49 of 100, and by the way, let's go a little bit deeper, you tend to be really weak in algebra, you are doing really well in arithmetic. So let's focus on algebra. Let's figure out, okay, let's get you some extra classes. Let's, give you some extra exercises. Let's do some, weekly testing on algebra. And then
Mhm.
maybe the next test, instead of getting 49, you're getting, 79 because you really have mastered algebra. Now that kid who was feeling hopeless and lost or just going sideways is starting to make progress.
Mhm.
Same thing with your team, right? If they don't know how well they're doing, how can they improve it? Most of you probably don't know what your call conversion rate is. And don't it's like asking your kid, right? You ask your kid, how are you doing with math? You'll say, I'm doing great. Like, don't ask your
Mhm.
kid, use data, like do some kind of reporting where you track every single call and then decide figure out what your call conversion rate is. Another metric that I appreciate as a marketer is how many 5-star love letter Google reviews you are getting. Minimum 10, right? Every single month. If you're not getting that, something wrong with your practice. Of course, you don't have to stop at 10. I have practices that get 40, 50 5-star love letter Google reviews a month. Even like daily production, right? Do you have a target for how much you want to produce every day? If you don't, how do you meet it? Do you people know what that number is? Like, what's your daily production goal? Again, that should be set based on how well you did last year and what your goals are for this year, and any changes in the practice, or maybe you added an extra hygienist. So all those factors will determine what's possible this year in terms of a daily production goal. So these are some examples of metrics that, good practice owners tend to focus on and tend to work on, and they make it better and better. So they don't stop, so that, call conversion rate, let's say, is, 39%, and it goes to 55, and then 65, and then 75, and then maybe they're maintaining at 85% every month. I mean, of course, some months might be a little bit down, but they have a target, the maximum target possible, and then they get there and they stay there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I heard before that, what you focus on and what you consume, right? It shapes who you are as a person. Like what occupies your mind is going to shape who you are. And I can only think that the logic behind that statement is when you're metrics driven, the metrics is the key performance indicators that you're tracking is what your practice is going to become. Right? You're going to get strong in those areas. So that makes perfect sense, Naren. It's hard for me not to think about the burnout process though, because practice owners, you have so many different things to focus on, right? As a CEO, you're wearing a lot of different roles, more so than a typical CEO of a business wears, right? But how do you address burnout? And perhaps maybe we should rephrase that. What causes burnout, and how does one create sort of a culture of accountability in a way that helps doctors with burnout by having the right system of delegation and accountability to follow up with team members?
No, absolutely. Burnout is a big problem in dentistry, as many of you know. And it's a big problem because doctors are doing so much. I mean, they are seeing the patients, and the bigger the practice gets, they see more patients. Insurance doesn't pay them full fees, so they are working twice as fast or twice as hard to make the same money they used to make 10 years ago. Everybody's demanding more of them. Everybody wants more money, more pay, and the burden is on the doctor, right? So unfortunately, the education system that teaches dentists don't help them become great leaders, great managers. It teaches them dentistry, but it doesn't teach them like all these business skills. It's like school doesn't teach your child to brush her teeth. You do, right? So a lot of things you teach as a parent, but and you don't depend on the school to teach all of that. So I guess, unfortunately, the same way, becoming a master entrepreneur, master business owner is not taught anywhere. You have to figure it out. And one of the common things about the ones who are avoiding burnout and actually who are thriving is they create a culture of accountability. So they realize, $500,000 practice versus a $2 million practice, it's day and night. I mean, God doesn't give you 4 times more hours just because you have a $2 million practice. And then when you have a $8 million practice, God doesn't say, oops, I'm going to reset your clock. I'm going to give you even more hours because you have a $4 million. He doesn't. He gives you the same 24 hours he gave you when you had a $500,000 practice, right? So you cannot do $4 million worth of work with the same number. If you're doing it the same way you did it when you had a $500,000. So you have to learn other skills. And one of the things you have to learn is delegation and accountability. Delegation means you are completely giving a responsibility to somebody. You're clear with that person. So for example, you're going to be my phone champion, meaning we're going to have 3 people answering the phone, but your job is one and only one job. Currently, our call conversion rate is 39%. Your job is to slowly grow it every month, 5 or 10%, till we get to 75% and keep it there. That's it. You are the champion. You're going to own it. You are going to listen to these calls. You're going to work with yourself and the other 3 people who answer the calls on how we can improve it. And you're going to be on top of it. You're going to celebrate when they win. You're going to take them out. Here is the budget to support you being successful. Oh, by the way, this is what it's in it for you. So if we go from 39% to 44%, I'm only expecting 5%. You get a X bonus, $200 bonus. If you get 10%, you'll get a $400 bonus. So you clearly define. So instead of you saying, I own call, I the owner, dentist owns everything, you start delegating these metrics to different people, and you say you start owning a piece of these metrics. So they all own one of the metrics, and then they I give credit to Gary Tackers who taught me this, and he has worked with practices for 43 years, And one of the ways he helps practice owners, work less, and that's one of the benefits of his coaching program, is he teaches them how to create a culture of accountability, how to create a team environment where everybody is pitching in and everybody's adding value, right? And then
Yeah.
how do you motivate them? So it's not easy, but it can be done, right? I mean, the people who are running $4 million practices didn't jump out of heaven. I mean, they were just like you. They came out of dental school, they made mistakes, they learned. One of the things they learn is to create that culture of accountability, a bonus system, champions, motivating them, how to talk to them, how to set things up properly. So it's something that you really need to take seriously if you want to continue to, avoid burnout while growing your practice.
No, that's awesome. I like what you said there in terms of delegation. I think that's just the key, key to life in general. My parents had 14 kids, but they were very happy people. I'm fairly certain that at some point in their younger years it was very stressful raising 14 children. But we picked up a lot of the responsibilities with 14 of us. A division of labor that taught us hard work. To me, I always think about my experiences as a child and how fulfilled my parents felt in terms of mastering that art of delegation. I don't know if they were using any metrics on how to raise kids. I would sure love to know what they were. But as you talk about the metrics-driven dental practice owner, as it relates to burnout, thank you for educating us on that. But you mentioned something else, Naren. Love letter reviews. So this is actually an interesting one because love letter reviews, they're paragraphs, right? And some practices have hundreds of paragraphs worth of love letter reviews. What's the secret there on getting patients to sort of feel that way and respond with like paragraphs worth of reviews, love letter reviews?
Absolutely. So Ben is referring to Google reviews. And sometimes when you go and read a Google review for a dental practice, an example is LifeSmart's Dental Care Phoenix, you will see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of paragraph reviews. And any paragraph review, we call them love letter reviews, right? Because somebody took the time to just brag on you, not with 3 words, but with 50 words, 100 words. Like they're writing sentences and paragraphs saying, what an amazing experience this was, right? And these are real people, just like you and me, just going out of their way to brag about a dental practice. And that's what we want. And typically these practices who have these hundreds of love letter reviews have figured something out. They have figured patient experience out. At the end of the day, the patients are feeling like they have been taken care of perhaps by the best dental practice I've ever been to. And they just want to brag about how amazing it is and how much of a different experience it is than anything they've ever experienced at any dental practice. Now, the bad news is, unfortunately, many practices don't get these love letter reviews. But the good news for you is that means you can really make an impression by focusing on patient experience. What is patient experience? One way to think about it is, in the book E-Myth, I think I actually met the person who wrote the book. I went to his home in San Diego. This was like 7-8 years ago. And he has this paragraph about the founder of IBM. And he says, the founder of IBM visualized what IBM should, not the founder, one of the first CEOs of IBM. He visualized what IBM should look like, 5 years out. Well, one of the things he realized is nobody should get fired when they buy from IBM. I'm talking about, IBM was the IT company for a long, long, long time, right? Till the last 30, 40 years. So I'm talking about that IBM. So what does it mean? Okay, everybody's going to wear a suit, the same suit. We stand behind our product. So if we do something, yeah, it's going to be so expensive, but we are going to stand behind it. Nobody's going to get in any trouble. We as the company IBM will stand behind everything we do. Doesn't matter how hard or expensive it is, we're going to stand behind our work, right?
Yeah.
So he visualized what IBM should be, and then he created it every day. So he would go to work saying, okay, what's missing between what I want and what we have? Oh, only some people are wearing suits. No, that's going to be a policy. Everybody has to wear suits. If you want to be an IBMer, this is the way you dress. You don't want to be dressed like this, don't bother coming to work tomorrow, right? Maybe he just told them nicely, nobody listened, so he changed it. So he kept at it till he got the ideal IBM he wanted. And once he got it, then automatically the business grew and grew and grew because that's the IBM that everybody wanted to work with, the IBM that he had in his brain. right? Same thing with patient experience. What do you want your patients to say about you in these paragraph reviews? Do you want them to say, you know, talk how amazing the first phone call was? Then work on the first phone call, that they're making to your office. Do you want them to talk about the very first visit? Then figure out how that very first visit is going to go, what's going to happen step by step, who's going to do it, what amazing looks like, coach them, train them, track it, go and look at the reviews to see if it's matching up with what you had in mind. If it's not, go back and fix what needs to be fixed. Oh yeah, you wanted people to brag about that first visit. If they're not, why are they not doing it? What are we doing? You get your hands dirty. You start, doing what, being the one who creates that visit, documents it, teaches your team, all that stuff, right? So, you have to really start visualizing ideal patient experience and start creating it. And you won't get it right. Again, something I learned a lot from Gary on this, like he has mastered patient experience and he shares it, in his, Thriving Dentist podcast and of course with his clients. And there's so much you can there's so many nuances you can pick up and work on to really drive patient experience.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I from time to time when I have a really good experience at a business, I'll write a love letter review. Right, I think spot on there in terms of just that human psychology and how people end up doing those love letter reviews. Another thing that you mentioned that was interesting, Naren, is that since the COVID-19 pandemic, doctors are presenting less treatment, right? According to the dental intel data. Why is that? And what is the solution to sort of help increase case acceptance in that area?
Yeah, so I think the challenge is that, especially in an insurance-driven environment, the patients are trained to ask the question, is it covered by insurance? So let's say if you are a practice that is 80% dependent on insurance. So every patient keeps asking, is it covered? Is it covered? So after a while, for whatever reason, the doctors give up, even though they know that ideal care is X and insurance won't pay for it because it's not considered essential, right? The person has a crooked teeth. Maybe it's not essential. Person has, needs a beautiful veneers. It's not essential. It's not going to be covered. Or it'll only be covered like $1,000 a year or $1,500 a year. So to get the ideal care, it's going to cost $20,000, and there's no way we can do it with insurance. So in that environment, especially for doctors who are like so dependent on PPO plans, you stop presenting ideal care because you are like, oh, the patient is going to say, is it covered? And the answer is no. And so what's the point, right? But unfortunately, you have to understand millions or probably tens of millions of people in the US go to Starbucks and pay, I know some people spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 on Starbucks every year because they go there every single day and it's a $20 bill, sometimes multiple times a day, and they buy coffee and stuff for their friends and, all these specialty drinks. So humans will spend money on the things they want more than the things they need, right? So if you present ideal care, you are presenting to them what you would do if it was your mother or your brother or your sister or your wife sitting across, and you communicate it that way. This is what I recommend. This is what I would recommend. If you're my brother, etc. And this is and you have to keep doing it. I think you have to somehow get over this mindset of like, oh well, they won't accept it, so why am I doing it anyways? I feel like a loser. So don't present ideal care because you want them to accept it. Present ideal care because it's the right thing to do. That's what you would want if your mother was on the other side, listening to a doctor, right? You want her to know everything. You want her to know what's going on. You want her to know what the different options are and what you would recommend if, because you are the son, right? That she has it done. So think of every patient that way and start presenting ideal care. Don't worry about whether they accept it or not, because depending on the situation, some may not. But if you really present it that way with genuine care and the way you would present it to a loved one, they'll see it. They will realize you're not just trying to sell them anything. And also you have to not get upset or expect them to accept the ideal care. You have to present it because it's the right thing to do. I know it's a hard mindset shift, especially when you get hammered by patients with the question, is it covered? Is it covered? So you need to also along that master some skills on how to communicate. I know Didi and a few other people who are really, really good at communicating case acceptance and how to position Didi Reed. Dr. Mark Montgomery. So there are people who are experts on this, but I'm sure you can take courses on it. You can work on it. Just start asking the question, am I presenting ideal care every single chance? And then one thing you will start noticing, the more you present ideal care, it's a numbers game, right? So instead of presenting, let's say, $1 million worth of care, you're presenting 2 million, you're more than likely going to get double the amount of accepted care because you're just presenting more ideal care. So, I mean, just a numbers game. So if last year you got, like, out of the $1 million you presented, you got $200,000 worth of treatment. Now, because you're presenting 2 million and you're presenting with passion, you will get $400,000, even if the ratios are the same, even if they don't improve because you're so passionate and you mean it.
That's
So that's
awesome.
my recommendation of case acceptance. I think the again, I'm looking at the winners and everybody else, and the winners tend to showcase these characteristics, showcase these things. So case acceptance is one of them.
Excellent. And then the final thing that you mentioned at the very beginning, Naren, that I wanted to ask you about is you mentioned some practices are getting large number of new patients and consistent number of new patients every single month. What's the secret to doing that? As a marketing expert yourself, what are they doing that's getting them that consistency of new patient flow?
Yeah. Again, successful people understand the game before they play the game. They take the time to understand the game. In marketing, 95% of new patients today are coming from digital marketing. And within that digital marketing space, there are 4 options. SEO, that is free traffic from Google. Google Ads, which is, some people call it pay-per-click, where you pay for every time somebody clicks on an ad that you run. The third option is social media ads, where you pay Instagram or TikTok money to show your ads. And the last one is, organic social media. It's kind of like SEO, where you get free traffic from Google. Here, you're getting free traffic from social media companies. Let me start with organic social media because, we work with close to 500 practices. And one thing I noticed is, out of the 500, 5 of them, or less than 5 of them, actually get serious number of new patients from social media. They are what I called influencers. So these are the people who are spending 15 to 20 hours a week, sometimes for years, creating content, creating video. They really want to be celebrities. They really want to be influencers. So they master it. They put time into it. Like sometimes they would have 700 videos, 800 videos. They love being a celebrity. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong or necessary or not. I'm just saying, of my clients, 1% of people love doing that and 99% don't. 99% of my doctors, they like privacy. They don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to spend 15 to 20 hours a week becoming a celebrity. Unfortunately, that I've talked to a lot of people who have actually done it really well. And I asked them, can you outsource it? And their answer is absolutely not. And the way somebody explained it to me is, imagine being Oprah. Can you outsource being Oprah? You can't. Oprah is Oprah. Like, you're buying Oprah, right? I mean, when Oprah says, go read that book, I mean, I'm not listening to Oprah clone. I'm listening to Oprah. So either you have to be that celebrity, be that influencer, or it won't work. So real question you have to ask yourself is, do you like that? Do you enjoy it? 2, are you going to put the time and effort into it? Are you going to put 15 to 20 hours? The answer is yes. And in my experience, 1% of doctors will say yes. If you are in that 1%, go do it, really work on it. The only other tip I would give to that 1% is social media, unlike SEO, is not local, it's global. So you might put up a video that's watched in Philippines, that's watched in, 10,000 miles away or 1,000 miles away in a different state. So you have to have some way of monetizing it, perhaps a course, perhaps a product they can buy on a website that you can ship to them. Otherwise, you become a celebrity, but only like a tiny percentage of people can actually fly and come and see you. So you won't get the full bang for the buck. So most of the 1%, they have something outside of just dentistry that they do that also helps them make money. So again, if you want to be in the 1%, that's an awesome place to be, but really think through, is that something you want? Is that something you enjoy? But if you don't want to be in that 1%, then of course your options are SEO, Google Ads, and social media ads. SEO, in my experience, having done this for 17 years, is 1/5 the cost of Google Ads. So if you were to compare a similar type of a patient, a good SEO program that's working well, typically takes a year for it to work well, will create a patient for 20 cents on the dollar. So if you're going to spend $100 with Google Ads to get that patient, you will spend $20 with SEO to get that patient. Over time, that gap increases further. So you may have to spend $150 to get that patient from Google Ads, versus with SEO, you might only still spend $20. So that gap increases. Why is that? Um, the average person who clicks on a Google ad won't trust you because it's an ad. So you need more of them. And every time they click on it, you have to pay $3, $4. And also Google has to keep making more money. So they'll make SEO harder and harder. And at the same time, they will make Google ads more and more expensive. That's how they make more money every year. So it's just that dynamic. So SEO is the lowest cost. And then social media ads are twice the cost of Google ads. Again, my experience. And the reason is social media has a disadvantage compared to Google Ads, which is people don't type in veneers or type in Invisalign. So they are not thinking about Invisalign when you show them an ad for Invisalign. They may not even want it. So when you show an ad to somebody who doesn't care about what you have to sell, they won't buy it. So the average person from social media will only spend 5 seconds versus social media ads versus Google ads, they'll spend 15 seconds. So that's why social media ads tend to be the most expensive. So once you understand that, my recommendation is master SEO because SEO is the lowest cost, highest quality patients you can get. It's not easy. It'll take an year, but once you pass that year and you get into that top 5% of practices that's getting 95% of the traffic for free, then you have an unfair advantage. So almost all the practices I know, they master SEO. Of course, they might still need additional patients. So they might top it up with Google Ads, for example, but most of the focus is on SEO because that's the way to get the most number of patients at the least cost. So, master SEO, because if you do and you master marketing, then of course, you're going to do well. Because every practice that's successful cannot be successful if you are not getting that steady stream of new patients. You can be PPO dependent, but as you know, you're giving a lot of what you make to the insurance companies, like sometimes 40%, 50%. So you really, have a disadvantage when you are PPO dependent because a lot of the money that you produce goes to the insurance company either because they control your fees or because they take a piece of your fees because they don't pay you the full fees.
Very good. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I recommend listeners, those of you that are needing new patients you just need new patients in general. Take advantage of Naren's or Equa's marketing strategy meeting. You can book one on the Insurance Untangled website. Just go to insuranceentangled.com/MSM, and that stands for marketing strategy meeting. We've had tons of clients do that and report significant value with that complimentary assessment. But Naren, what's something, what can you expect if you decide as a dentist to do that marketing strategy meeting?
Absolutely. I think what you can expect is our team will spend 6 hours prior to the meeting. They'll tell you how you stand with regards to SEO, with regards to marketing, and then also give you a plan. So within 12 months, how can you get into the top 5%? How do you rank for 100 or more keywords and phrases on page 1 of Google results, meaning the top 10 results? So they'll give you a plan and, of course, a report card on where you stand. That's worth a lot. Once you know what you need to do to get to the top 5%, either you work with us or somebody else, implement it. Because the advantage of marketing is you can technically, especially SEO-driven marketing, let another firm do it for you as long as they know what they're doing. As opposed to everything else I shared with you today, you have to do it. You have to be the change you want to see, and you have to be on top of it for a long, long time till you master it. But this one, you get the right partner, it should work for you. So definitely take advantage of the marketing strategy meeting, insuranceentangled.com/MSM.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Naren. I personally learned quite a bit this episode, especially on the metrics-driven component, right? Just understanding that from the perspective of burnout, as well as marketing, case acceptance, patient experience. That was wonderful. So thank you for that, Naren. And to our guests, a quick announcement is Insurance Untangled podcast is moving from Google Podcasts to YouTube Podcasts. So you can subscribe on our YouTube channel at Insurance Untangled and hit the notification bell to stay updated on the latest episodes and content. I want to thank everybody for joining us today with another amazing episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share it with your friends and family on social media. We also appreciate reviews as well. Your reviews, especially, practice doing love letter reviews. Do the love letter review that you want your patients to do. You can do that for us. So we do most certainly appreciate your reviews. So if you want more information on future episodes, future webinars, which we do them quarterly, visit insuranceentangled.com to find out more. Until next time, thank you, everybody, and have a great day.